Welcome to another edition of Shop Talk. I'm Bill Herman for IMTS TV. This is probably the coolest show we do all week. This is one of those days when I walk out of here just a little bit smarter by sheer osmosis. Got some wicked smart guys with me this morning from Modern Machine Shop magazine. Joining me is Mark Albert, the editorial director at Modern Machine Shop, Pete Zelinsky, editor-in-chief, and Derek Korn, executive editor for MMS. So, guys, you've been here now 6 days. It's day 6 of the show. What have you seen? Let's go around the horn a little bit. Tell me what you saw. Give me an example of a really cool thing you saw in a booth.
I think one of the coolest things is the big screen that is showing all the machines that are being monitored in that booth, as well as booths all over the show, and in some cases in plants in different parts of the country and the world. That's really cool, and it's not just the machine tool builders with those screens, it's control builders, cutting tool people. That's fantastic.
A cool thing, so we're seeing there's a very prominent exhibit of voice actuated, voice recognition, digital assistant for not just a different way of interfacing with the machine tool, but a different way of quickly accessing information on the shop floor. It is an example of one of these technologies that, it appears at IMTS in a given year, and it quite possibly could be really prevalent in the future sometime. So we're seeing other examples of that, like I'm searching for the word, automated guided vehicles, and well,
So now what you saw on the floor, is this kind of like the Hey Siri for manufacturing?
So yeah, the voice recognition thing, yeah, a Hey Siri for manufacturing, but the voice recognition is sort of just the surface element. There's also the challenge of quickly accessing information on the shop floor, and the developers of this technology have put some intelligence behind that. It's one of those things where it seems to have such promise and you wonder how far that might go.
Very cool. Derek?
So, stepping back from the technology, the cool thing that I see is all the exhibitors that I visited were happy, right?
Yeah. Wow.
It was busy. The show was busy. There were a lot of people here. But then the flip side is all the automation you see. So you think automation is like there's conflicting things, but the automation lets the people do more important tasks. So the robot can be loading, unloading, doing the manual kind of things normally, and they can be doing things like inspecting or deburring or whatever they need to do to add value to the product.
Can I add another comment about
Sure,
automation? Clearly, there's a shift to a focus on using automation to leverage existing capacity of equipment and the people, and that's in response to the skills shortage. You have to make more with the people you have, because finding new people is so tough. That's why we need robotics and pallet changers and everything else.
That's a good comment. I was in some factories earlier in the year, and the guy said, people think we're automating because we want to get rid of people. We just can't find people to do it.
Yeah, automation is becoming a given. And your question, Bill, was a cool thing we saw. There's one booth in particular that comes to mind, a major machine tool exhibitor, and there's something I didn't see, which is a lot of different examples of automation. Flashy, we could do this kind of automation, because they say there are so many different choices now. It is such a prevalent demand. It is so frequently a part of our relationship with the end user. There's no point in showing off flashy examples. It just gets in the way. People come to us asking to automate, and we need to have the conversation on their terms. You don't have to push automation anymore, and that is a striking development that we're seeing become visible this year.
Yeah, and a lot of the automation is roll it up, plug it in, and go. So a lot of the problems with interfacing robotic systems, that's gone away. It's there, goes to work, you move it to another machine. That's really made it easy to implement automation, and that's a big deal.
Very cool. Now, you guys are as plugged in out there in the field as any group of guys can be, so I don't imagine there's much here that caught you by surprise, but Derek, starting with you, was there anything you saw out there like, hey, I hadn't seen that before, I'd heard a little bit about it but hadn't seen it? Were there some new things that you saw at IMTS?
So one striking thing to me was visiting with EDM builders. So EDM's been around for a while, and it's kind of a niche-y thing. It's kind of sort of like additive manufacturing. It has its own place. But the resurgence of that, the very difficult materials to machine, the inconels, the very strange things like that, EDM is important for that. So there's been very many sales of EDM machines for that type of application. I guess I wasn't expecting that this show.
How about you, Pete?
Something that's sort of wasn't quite expecting. The role that machine tool companies and even tooling companies in some cases want to play is changing. You associate them with the hardware that they offer, but increasingly they want to talk about, a machine tool company, they want to talk about their software, and they want to talk about what they can do with all of the data about your process if they can get to a point where you feel comfortable giving them that data. There is all kinds of, there always has been, all kinds of intelligence, information pouring out of a manufacturing process. We have the capacity now to marshal and learn things from that data, and the machine tool suppliers in particular increasingly realize they can provide a higher level of value if they can be allowed to partner with the end user at the use of that data.
Very good. Mark?
Well, one of the things that surprised me is in a discussion about a new tool measurement system at the Bloom booth. It's much faster. They can really find out a lot about that tool on the machine. But the comment was, metrology becomes a bottleneck when you do a lot of, let's say, unattended operation. Now you have all these parts done at the beginning of the next morning. They have to be measured. We have to move that metrology back onto the machine so that we eliminate that bottleneck and really can take advantage of the untended operation that we get.
You know, picking up on Pete's comment about the automation and the data flow, it seems as if we're moving towards a connection point where manufacturing meets IT a little bit more. We're starting to see a little more presence from Cisco, from Hewlett-Packard, from some others. Do you see that trend continuing as the marriage kind of IT and manufacturing?
I think we do, and one thing that I see is that there's been a shift from a lot of attention to manufacturing processes to our manufacturing processes to business practices. So you have to think about, how do I run my shop, how do I run my plant, and take advantage of having this data. And that's a significant shift that I haven't noticed before at this show.
We can't talk about this show without talking about additive, and I'm sure we'll get to that, but additive is going to help bridge the way into more sophisticated uses of data. Additive manufacturing lends itself very well to digital manufacturing, data-driven manufacturing, because for the most part, the variables, as many as they are, all happen in the same place, and gathering intelligence about input parameters versus output results is particularly amenable to additive manufacturing. So to your question, yeah, in the not too distant future, capabilities like machine learning are going to be very important for getting optimal manufacturing processes, and I think that's we're first going to see that in that 3D printing space.
And so Doug Woods at our Top Shops workshop yesterday ended our conference with a slide that said, don't think about hiring machine operators or programmers. He listed a bunch of people, titles like IT kind of people. Right. These are the people you need to hire because you need that data. You need to understand how to apply that to your process. And like, we're all so entrenched, I'm saying we, like I own a machine shop, we're so entrenched in that we kind of don't think outside the box like that, but hiring someone outside of our box is going to be beneficial to our company.
Absolutely, and Doug Woods, the president of AMT, has been a real evangelist for that, as you know, over the last couple of years, trying to lead us forward towards where he sees manufacturing going. Speaking of Job Shops Conference, you also produced the Additive Manufacturing Conference. Very significant, terrific attendance this year. How did it go from your perspective? How was it received by your audience? Pete, you're you wear two hats. You wear two hats. You're also the editor-in-chief of Additive Manufacturing magazine, so I'll start with you on that one.
I'm privileged to get to have that role too. The Additive Manufacturing Conference was wonderful. We had the highest attendance we've had. There was, at the beginning of it, HP shared the stage with us to use that platform for a product launch. They used IMTS to launch an additive manufacturing product, a significant move there, as did other additive manufacturing exhibitors launching products here. But the conference, we're no longer at the point where we have to come to this manufacturing audience at IMTS and explain what additive is and make the case for additive. The presentations at the Additive conference that got the best response were the ones that were showing the way to take it further, follow a progression of sophistication into ramping up with this technology, using it more effectively. The case for additive has been made. Additive is a significant part of this show now, and the Additive conference gets to be a part of that big footprint for additive that is now at IMTS.
Perfect. Now, economies, of course, ebb and flow. Wasn't too long ago we were pulling out of the worst ones in recent memory. Derek, what are you hearing from your readers as you visited with them on the floor? Are they shopping with confidence still? Are they bullish about where we're going in the next 12 or 18?
So the machine shops I've visited are busy.
Yeah.
Like they're almost to the point they're turning down work, and it's almost nice because they know their niche. So they can turn away work that's outside of their bailiwick, right? So if they're turning a certain size, they're not going to necessarily go after something outside of that range. We want this, so we're going to go after this. And with ERP and all these other technologies, they know what they're solid at, and they don't have to go out these ancillary kind of jobs that they might or might not make money off of.
So here at the show, you feel that they're out ready to buy. They're in a confident posture right now.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you picked up anything different, Pete?
Yeah, they're busy. The show was crowded. The mood was frenetic. Comes to mind. It's trying to characterize all of the manufacturing space is hard, and macroeconomic effects ultimately come down to all of our own micro levels. But right now, both the short-term and more importantly the long-term prospects of manufacturing in this part of the world are just wonderful. And I see. Derek is talking about how busy they are. Part of that busyness is they're profitable, and it gives them the chance to look ahead to where they want to be and what platforms do they want to build for the future. And this event is a huge part of that.
Very good. Well, that's a good lead into my final question here. Let's gaze into the Gardner Business Media Modern Machine Shop crystal ball. What are some of the things we'll be sitting on this couch talking about at IMTS 2020?
We're going to be talking a lot about data and software. All the companies, both as here as attendees and as exhibitors, are really focusing on what they can do with software and data. Job shops are starting to think of themselves, we're software companies. The exhibitors, we're software companies. They're not getting away from doing great things with great machines, but they are looking at what they can do with computers and data and how they can serve customers better now that they have this technology at their hands.
Guys, see any other perspectives on the horizon 2 years from now?
2 years from now, additive manufacturing. It's a big footprint at the show this year. The Additive Pavilion for the first time is one. It takes a little walking to get from one end of it to the other, and it's gonna be bigger 2 years from now. This technology is moving into scale production for a growing circle of applications. This is a viable solution, and there are a set of additive technologies that are just near to being proven out sufficiently to reach the market 2 years from now. So I think this is going to be an even bigger platform for additive in 2020.
So robotic automation is everywhere, in the South Hall especially, right? So every machine tool builder has a robot in their booth, essentially. But taking that back, kind of Mark alluded to this before, so yeah, everyone's going after unattended machining, and you have all these parts waiting for you in the morning, and that's great. When you flip the lights on, now you have 1,000 parts. Well shoot, now I have to sort them, now I have to inspect them. So automated inspection, I think, is going to be big in the coming years.
Very good. Well, everybody here has to promise to come back in 2 years. We're going to replay this tape and see how spot on you were, especially you, Mark.
I'll be back.
Don't go away.
See how we did with our 2020 vision?
Yeah, 2020 vision.
Good.
That's going to be the name of the program.
Nice.
Thank you for joining us for this edition, this wrap-up edition of Shop Talk. Again, my guests have been from Modern Machine Shop, the Director of Editorial, Mark Albert,
Thank you.
Editor-in-Chief, Pete Zelinsky, and Executive Editor, Derek Korn. For IMTS TV, I'm Bill Herman.